Hello everyone, in this video let us talk about a portfolio for Jira new experience. So recently Portfolio released a new version, and in the new version there are some significant changes. So in this video I just wanted to talk about those changes, and I thought I'll record a video because I am also looking at these changes, these new features for the very first time. And I was looking at this particular page where you can see that there is some description of these new features. And by the way, we are talking about portfolio for Jira version 2.27. So I believe you need to update your portfolio in case you need these new changes, and you have the option to enable these new features if you want, so which is a good thing. You can still update your portfolio, but you have the option to decide whether you want these new features to be enabled in your plan, which is great. So if you look at this particular page, there are some details about these new features. So the first thing that they're talking about is how to distinguish between type of plans. So when you look at your portfolio, I mean, if in case you're using the old version, which they are now calling as classic plans, you can, of course, classic plans or live plans, which is something that we know. So if you look at your live plan, and if you look at this schedule, this line, this schedule is actually below your scope of issues, and and this is basically the main difference, because when you look at the new experience, the schedule is, or the timeline is actually right next to the issues. So basically it says that when you look at this description, when you read this, it says in the new planning experience, the timeline is now positioned at the right of the scope section. So if you look at this view, first of all, they are now calling it as a roadmap. It used to be scope. So when you look at the scope, of course, which is nothing but your list of issues, it used to be on top where you had those list of issues, not list of issues, but a timeline with those blocks, those bars, and the list of issues were actually below it. And the line, the green line, the timeline was actually below your bars of issues. But in this case, you have your list of issues on the left hand side, and on the right hand side you have your timeline, which is actually on top, but you have that bar that actually signifies your duration of task. And of course, you can look at the start date and the end date, I believe, by looking at this particular view. This is a bit more comfortable view for, at least for me, because I prefer this view. It is something similar to your Gantt chart. I don't know if they're calling it as a Gantt chart. I don't think so, but it is much more intuitive in my opinion. But there are few other things that are definitely new. So if you look at this particular paragraph, it says that the new planning experience has two main things. So number one is planning and viewing your work. If you read this, it is basically saying the same thing, that your timeline is on the right hand side, and you can also schedule your work by manually dragging it. So on the timeline, you can actually drag this bar left or right to change the date, and I believe you can also expand and decrease their duration on the timeline, which is great. There is also a concept of auto scheduling, which I believe is similar to calculate. If you remember, if you have been using portfolio, there is a calculate button. This is something similar. You are letting portfolio decide the schedule for you, which is great. And the thing that I was trying to understand is how it is different from calculate option that we have. So let us read it very quickly. So it says that aside from setting target dates and manually scheduling issues. You can also choose to auto calculate the work in your plan. Portfolio will consider some factors and then prepare a schedule of work items for your team. You can then choose to accept or disregard the suggested changes as needed. So I believe when you are, even when you're doing your calculating calculations, even when you're asking portfolio to do the calculation or scheduling for you, you have the option to either accept it or disregard it, and then you should be able to finally commit it on your project. So this is something interesting. I think this is something that we should probably look at how it will work on portfolio. To be honest, I still prefer looking at the tool and then playing, and of course going back to the documentation to understand how exactly it is different from the old portfolio, how exactly it will work. But I think it will probably take some time. I'll probably make a new video or maybe a couple of videos on this particular topic. Maybe I'll create a portfolio series, but for the time being, let us quickly take a look at the new planning experience. So when you look at your plan, this is of course your standard plan, and you may want to enable this new experience. So when you click on the option, you will be taken to this section where you can enable your new experience, which looks good because you have the option to do it for a specific plan, not for the whole portfolio. So it definitely looks different. It definitely looks better in my opinion, because this is something similar to your Gantt chart where you can drag the issues left or right. You also have the option to, I believe, create some dependencies. So there is also this option to click on the plus sign, and you can say that this particular issue blocks maybe the next issue, which I believe is iOS 3, and you can create dependencies, which is good in my opinion. And I think the dates will automatically be adjusted based on the dependencies. This is my assumption. I'm sure it will work like that, but I prefer spending more time on the new features. Sorry. And what else do we have here? So we can of course move it left or right. On top, I can see some warnings, and I have the option to auto schedule it. So I see that there is a warning here, which I want to remove. Of course, I don't like warnings. So let us click on auto schedule. So when you click on auto schedule, it will ask you to do few things. Basically, it will ask you to do this auto scheduling. So it is saying that overwriting issue values, you can choose to overwrite fields that have existing values or to set values only if the fields are empty. So I believe if you select sprint here, or if you select release and teams, portfolio will assign the issues to the sprints and to the versions, and it will basically pick the right team based on your team, of course. And you can click on preview result. So I think that there is a step in between. Earlier it used to be calculate and then commit. Now even while you're doing this auto scheduling, you have the option to review everything before you can commit. So there is one more additional step, which is interesting. I'm not sure where is the concept of scenarios, but let us see. I think the way it will work is probably same. So you can take a look now at this particular view. It says previewing 6 auto scheduled issues. By accepting, your plan will be updated with these changes. You'll still need to review and save all changes in your plan. So you can of course look at your you can review this, then you can accept it, and I think the purple color is actually showing you what will be changed. So I think these issues will probably have some updates. So for this particular issue, you can see here that the target date used to be 14th of August, and it will now be changed to 30th of April. Okay, all right. So you can probably see here that there will be some change, which is good. I think it is quite important to see what is going to change, and let us accept these changes. And I believe these changes are still not committed to the project, which is good. And now I can see some changes definitely, but I want to probably review those changes. And now I can save selected changes in Jira. So I think this will now commit to the project, which is good. So I think it will take some time for the new features. I mean, we need to understand how this will work and how this will affect the working. But it looks overall good. The thing that is different is that we have the roadmap. It used to be scope. We have the team section, which is same. We have the release section, which is same. We do have scenarios. I think this is good because we need scenarios. So there is still a concept of scenarios, but even when you're doing auto scheduling, you have the option to review those changes, which is interesting. And I'm looking at my reports section. So I am trying to understand where is my report. So let me go back to my plan. And I don't see the reports, to be honest, but I'm sure there is a way to find out. So I think let us end this video, and we'll probably spend more time. I'll probably spend more time on understanding how it works, and I'll probably create a couple of more videos on this topic. So I hope this video was useful, and I hope you also like these new features in Portfolio. Thank you very much.